PASTEF says it is now backing its Secretary General as the candidate for next year's presidential election. And in sports news, Gambia's national football team lost their second consecutive 2026 World Cup qualifier as their campaign fails to spark into life. Those were the news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you for joining us. This is QTV News and I am Mamudu Kajaga. At his first dialogue with the people on this tour, President Barrow told farmers that government will buy their groundnuts at $38,000 per ton, which is an increase on last year's price. He also encouraged farmers to sell their produce to government in the upcoming marketing season. Mamudu Lamin Choi, who is accompanying the tour, files this report.
President Adama Barrow is on a tour fulfilling a constitutional requirement. He will travel nationwide to interact and dialogue with the people on matters of development and other issues they may raise. His first meeting venue is at Pakao Njogo. It is a joint meeting for Lower and Upper Nyomi and Jokado constituencies in the North Bank region. First to speak is the Alcalo of Pakao Njogo, Modu Aidaba. The village head acknowledges government's progress in improving access to water and health facilities. Also, the Alcalo informs the president that more needs to be done to improve on their social needs. He also asks government to provide more opportunities for the youth in terms of skills development. Alhaji Mamudu Chate Cham, the chief of Upper Nyomi, is grateful to the president and his government for the progress in road infrastructure development, access to water, health services, electricity, and education. The Upper Nyomi chief also calls for peace in the Gambia. Aziz Seka and Amadou Sow are farmers. Both recognize government support to the agriculture sector, including subsidies on fertilizer and rice. Aziz Seka uses the occasion to highlight some of the challenges facing farmers, mentioning lack of farm machineries. Mr. Seka also urges government to be making early announcements of groundnut price to avoid farmers selling to other buyers. The Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Demba Sabali, is among the cabinet ministers present and listening to the farmers in this dialogue with the people. The minister reports on some of the measures government has taken to support farmers in this year's farming season, which include consignments amounting to tens of thousands of kilograms of fertilizer, rice, maize, and groundnut seeds to farmers of Upper and Lower Nyomi and Jokado. Having listened keenly to the speakers in this meeting, President Barrow takes the floor with some messages to share. He starts by emphasizing his constitutional mandate to serve the country, which he says requires him to pay attention to the people's needs and aspirations. He then shares with the farmers an important piece of information, which many of them have been waiting for, namely that his government is set to buy groundnuts for $38,000 per ton. This is a nearly 18% increase from the price of groundnut last year, which was pegged at $32,000 per ton.
Gerte bi nag daaw serum ci yodum ñewon na mané gerte bi prix bi neena ko serum ci da diata ñu def tonne bi nga tono kelum 32000 loolu lañ defon daaw wuli tan sabani fula loolu mo nekkon flat price bi wala no price batinu waaye ren bari ñi naan yokkana ko 38000 ren loolu la ko jëf $38,000.
The marketing season for groundnuts is scheduled to commence on the 4th of next month. The president also promised that groundnut sellers to government will receive cash payments. President Barrow encourages farmers to sell their groundnut produce to government. Meanwhile, the president reveals that this year, middlemen will be required to obtain a license from government to be qualified to buy groundnuts from farmers, and that they will be subject to custom checks should they plan to export. The head of state feels encouraged by the speakers to increase his efforts to develop the country. President Barrow believes that the country should be united with a shared vision and that we should support each other to develop the country. From this meeting at Pakao Njogo on Tuesday, the president with his delegation will proceed to Dobo and Farafanya respectively for joint meetings of the constituencies of Lower Badibu and Central Badibu, Ilyasa and Sabah Sanjal. Mahmoud Lamin Chai, QTV News.
The Gambia Public Utility and Regulatory Authority, PURA, organized a send-off on Tuesday for the team embarking on this year's Bantaba Public Outreach Sensitization Program as its head office on Caraba Avenue. Lola M. Camara attended and filed this report.
According to Pura officials, the Bantaba, which is now in its 10th year, is a periodic initiative of public outreach sensitization that is expected to last for 10 days. The initiative seeks to raise awareness of customers' rights and protection against abuse of all sorts. Delivering his statement, the Deputy Director General of Pura, Solo Sima, says the Bantaba Outreach serves as a platform that enables consumers to be better informed, educated, and be made aware what they are entitled to from the services that they consume. Mr. Sima gave this advice to tour delegates.
This transparent and open interaction has allowed the authority to not only address concerns in a swift and effective manner, but also anticipate future problem areas. Invariably, this places Pura as a bastion of strong regulation, deeply rooted in our commitment to upholding values of equity and social inclusion. The Bantaba Outreach mirrors this commitment by facilitating service accessibility, availability, and affordability, irrespective of geographical location, ethnicity, language, or background. Distinguished guests, tour delegates, let me remind you that as you embark on this journey, you carry the responsibility of furthering social advancement through regulatory lenses, contributing to growth and development in all our regulated sectors. Your efforts, therefore, will undoubtedly be inscribed in the annals of history as agents of change, pivotal to the continued success of the Bantaba.
Alungom, the board chairman of Pura, highlights that the past Bantaba engagements with the public and the feedback received through their Consumer Affairs Directorate have been encouragingly positive. He announced the 20 communities to be visited by the team.
The communities include Bullock in West Coast region, Jali, Quinella, Sanquea, and Karantaba in the Lower River region, Batinjol, Njoben, Gale, Manda, Jarume Koto, and Batindar in the Central River region, Damfa Kunda and Dingiri in the Upper River region, Sarakunda, Dipakunda, Suare Kunda, Njaba Kunda, Chile, Sitanunku, Bakindik, and Boledba in the North Bank region. This expansion of places to visit underscores our unwavering dedication to reaching every corner of our nation, leaving no community untouched by the benefits of our public outreach.
Officials used the occasion to call on other service providers to join them in this collective endeavor to build a stronger, more trusted and resilient communities for the common good. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
As part of activities marking the 16 Days of Activism, which runs from the 25th of November to the 10th of December 2023, the UNFPA Monday held a day-long training for media practitioners to strengthen their capacity on sexual and gender-based violence and FGM-related matters. Anjuman Aisunyasi has more.
Sexual and gender-based violence and the practice of female genital mutilation remain prevalent in the Gambia, especially FGM, which is without a doubt one of the most contentious issues in today's contemporary Gambian society, despite legislation banning the practice and advocacy programs. Recently, more than 20 NAMs took to the floor of the National Assembly advocating a repeal of the laws banning FGM. Given the media's role in providing information to the public, the UNFPA, as part of events commemorating its 16 days of activism, engages journalists on how their work can shape public discourse on SGBV-related matters with a view to discouraging people from engaging in these practices. During his presentation, Dr. Babanding Dafe stressed that it is important for participants to recognize that as journalists, they play a fundamental role in amplifying the voices of women and girls and pushing the limitations of silence around issues relating to gender-based violence. He also highlights the health complications and life-changing scars practices such as FGM leaves on victims.
The bleeding that occurred, which cost a young girl's life, that's from Tuyere, I seen in 2015. I've also seen in my clinical practice that the young couples who were married got pregnant, but could not deliver because the opening was so narrow that we have to take her to the theater, open up, and also to conduct cesarean sections.
He also calls for collective action in the fight against FGM, especially parents who he implores to help end the practice of FGM by not subjecting their children to it.
Well, I am telling people that the complications are very huge from my experience, what I saw. So I believe that people should be very careful, those especially who are cutting and they have no experience and they have no knowledge.
Participants Yusuf Telo, Ramatulai Jao and Omar Job all expressed gratitude to the UNFPA for inviting them to a training they describe as very useful and for exposing them to new information on SGBV and FGM that would be of great help in their line of work, especially when they report on SGBV advocacy-related issues.
So we've learned a lot from the technical perspective, that is the medical perspective, and also from the, as journalists, editors, do's and don'ts, things that we should be doing, things that we shouldn't be doing.
This training is very useful and timely because as a journalist and a female for that matter, this training will help me a lot because it is talking about gender-based violence, and as a woman, I think we are the most vulnerable.
Such trainings is useful to us, the journalists, because we are the mouthpiece of individual or group or associations, what could say. So you cannot be telling people what you don't know.
Other facilitators, Hadijatu Jawara, Modi Juve and Rohinjai, gave presentations on various topics, including sexual, physical and economic violence, complications of FGM, the role of the media in creating awareness while reporting SGBV, interpersonal communication, among others. The global theme of this year's 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. UNFPA is a leading global organization advocating for the adequate protection of women and girls from abuse, exploitation and violence. Answane Sonyasi for KTV News.
Time to go for a commercial break, and when we return we still have some international and sports news stories. Do stay tuned.
The Amsterdam Dakar Challenge is back, and this year it's bigger. From the heart of Amsterdam to the breathtaking landscapes of Dakar, teams will conquer the unknown, navigating through deserts, mountains, and everything in between. After the epic journey, these rugged vehicles will find a new home in the Gambia, and you could be the proud owner of one. It's the Amsterdam Dakar Challenge 2023 car auction. Join us in the Gambia for a day of excitement. Vehicles will be available for viewing between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. and the auction starts at 11 a.m. all for a good cause. Mark your calendars for Sunday, 26 November 2023 at the Independence Stadium, Bakau. Don't miss out on the chance to own a unique vehicle with a story to tell. The Amsterdam Dakar Challenge 2023 car auction, where the journey continues and the impact lasts a lifetime. For more information, call 530-5059 or 753-5507. Be a part of the excitement. See you at the auction.
The future is now. With QCell's 5G network, experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G-enabled device. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future. Tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyapus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. This is QTV News. World Television Day is observed annually on the 21st of November. The day provides an opportunity to discuss the importance and significance of television in our lives. Loliam Camera looks at the day and filed this report.
World Television Day was declared by the United Nations General Assembly in 1996 to celebrate the powerful medium that has been a cornerstone of global communication and entertainment for decades. Since then, November 21st has been observed as World Television Day. The device also serves as a source of information and entertainment for everyone. Even though it has undergone a lot of development and innovation since its inception, it is still relevant in the modern age. The first electric television in 1927 was built by Philo Taylor Farnsworth, a 21-year-old American inventor who had lived in a house without electricity until he was 14. The purpose of the day is for people all over the world to discuss the importance of television in our lives and consider ways to improve broadcast patterns and ways to collaborate. On the significance of the day, we engaged the managing director of QTV, Malika.
It was mainly black and white images that you see and people struggle. But technology has advanced since and it has changed. At QTV, we try to reflect all that. We have the African News Roundup, which reflects, non-mainstream news that comes in Africa so that people can be aware as to what is happening within the continent as well.
Lives have been enriched by television, and it has remained relevant over the years. Studies have shown that the number of households with television sets around the world continues to rise. Ade Dorami, editor-in-chief and head of QTV News, reflects back to early days of television in Sierra Leone.
In Sierra Leone, when television came along, it's so different to what it is now, and I never imagined that one day I would be working in television. Having said that, growing up in Sierra Leone, I was pleased that in the late 60s, my father was appointed Minister of Information and Broadcasting. So it meant that I could go into the TV stations and I could see how people were working. And then suddenly, I started thinking, oh, maybe this is something that I could really get into.
In the 21st century, TV is not just a one-way channel for broadcast and cable content anymore, but is consumed in a more modernized way that offers a wide range of multimedia and interactive content, such as streaming videos, music, and internet browsing. Abdoulaye Dabo, a journalist at Paradise TV, made this suggestion.
The way people conduct their programs really helps a lot, because looking at BBC and other international channels, still people are using it, even though people are using social media to get access to it, but people are also using their television to get access to it. So I think the way we conduct our program is the best mechanism that we need to improve on.
Despite the shift in audio-visual content consumption to different platforms and the constantly evolving technology, TV remains an important communication tool. As the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, reminds us, World Television Day is a celebration of how television has become a symbol of connection and globalization in the 21st century. As we celebrate World Television Day 2023, let's take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey of this medium and its impact on our lives. For QTV News, Lolly M. Camara.
That's beautiful about television. It reminds me of my early days of watching television when broadcasting started in the Gambia in December 1995. Now to international news. Senegal's dissolved opposition party PASTEF says it is now backing its Secretary General as candidate in next year's presidential election. This follows a Supreme Court ruling on Friday, effectively blocking party leader Ousmane Sonko's bid.
The party's Secretary General and second to Sonko in the hierarchy, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, is the new candidate. In a communique released on Sunday, the party says sponsoring Faye in no way implies an abdication of the candidacy of President Ousmane Sonko. And elsewhere, party apparatchiks say to sponsor Diomaye Faye is to sponsor Sonko. This announcement comes just 3 weeks ahead of the sponsorship deadline. Sonko being out of the race, the party had to put up a candidate or miss out on the election. A prospective candidate requires support of 13 seats in the National Assembly for validation in the presidential election. PASTEF currently has more than 20 seats in the Assembly. Diomaye Faye, like Sonko, is a tax inspector, and again like him, he faces criminal charges for allegedly spreading false news, insulting a magistrate and defaming a constituted body, after he had published a post criticizing the behavior of magistrates in the defamation case between Sonko and the Minister of Tourism, Mambay Niang. According to Senegalese political analysts, as long as he has not been convicted, he is presumed innocent and can perfectly well be a presidential candidate. After more than 2 years of fierce political tussle between Sonko and the state, the saga continues to throw up twists as if the antagonists were locked in an unfolding drama of the cat and mouse game. Until President Macky Sall's announcement in July that he would not seek a third term in office, it was generally assumed that he would, sparking months of protests by Sonko supporters that at times turned deadly. When Sall declared his hand, it was a surprise and took the sting out of the protests. Sonko has since been caught up in a maze of legal cases. In June, he was acquitted on charges of raping a woman who worked at a massage parlor but convicted of corrupting youth and sentenced to 2 years in prison, which ignited another deadly protests across the country. In late July, he was arrested on other charges, including fomenting insurrection and endangering state security. He has periodically been on hunger strikes since then. In October, a court in Ziguinchor, where he has been mayor since January 2022, ordered his reinstatement on the electoral roll. This has been overturned by the Supreme Court, and in a separate case, an ECOWAS court has rejected his claim that the state had treated him unfairly. Sonko has always denied all the charges, accusing President Sall and his government of pursuing criminal charges in an effort to sink his future political aspirations. All the same, the wheels of the law appear to have ground him down, and it remains to be seen whether his party-sponsored candidate will be as popular a flag-bearer as the party hopes. Meanwhile, President Sall has chosen Prime Minister Amadou Ba as his party's candidate. Senegal goes to the polls on the 25th of February next year. For QTV News, I'm Mamadou Mbouch.
Now, that takes us to sports news. Gambia lost 2-0 to Cote d'Ivoire in their second World Cup qualifier group game on Monday, which, although a designated home match for them, had to be played in Tanzania at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium. This is the latest loss, follows their opening defeat to Burundi. And more in this report. Gambia's poor start to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers continued with a 2-0 defeat to group favourites Cote d'Ivoire on Monday. The Elephants scored just before half-time, despite the Scorpions' resolute defensive formation. Christian Kwame scored in the 45th minute to give the Ivorians the lead. Having set up with a defensive formation, Tom Sanfiet and his players were hoping to go into the break with the scores at 0-0, but their defence was exposed. It was a case of one team playing well, trying to attack, while Gambia mainly chased the ball and quickly lost what little possession they did have with aimless balls upfield that hardly ever found one of their teammates. The Scorpions were disciplined in their defensive tactic and occasionally went forward. On one such instance, Musa Barrow headed into the side netting from Ablai Jallo's cross. Cote d'Ivoire dented Gambia's hopes of a comeback when in the 85th minute, Sekou Fofana collected the ball in midfield, unchallenged, to take a thunderous shot, beating keeper Modou Diop to seal the win for the Elephants. Late on in the game, coach Tom Sanfiet made substitutions, bringing on Mohamed Badamosi, Hassan Cisse, Ibrahim Okoli, Vilay Sanyang and Hamza Bari to boost his attack. But their introduction made no impact on the scoreline, as the Gambia lost for the second time in a row. Gambia's only win against Cote d'Ivoire in a competitive game at senior level came on the 4th of November 1984 at the then Box Bar Stadium in Banjul. It was a 3-2 home win for the Gambia in the 1986 World Cup qualifiers. Bai Malewada, Babukar Sow and Sek Ndour scored for the Gambia. For now, the Gambia are joint bottom of Group F and without a point. The Scorpions have a long wait to make amends and get points on the board. The next round of qualifiers are not until June 2024, when they take on Seychelles, the other team without a point in their group. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News. Now, before we end this news bulletin, here's a recap of our main news stories. At a meeting marking his first dialogue with the people on this tour, President Barrow told farmers that government will buy their groundnuts at $38,000 per ton and encourage farmers to sell their produce to government. The Gambia Public Utilities and Regulatory Authority, PURA, organized a send-off on Tuesday for the team embarking on this year's Bantaba Public Outreach Sensitization Program. To mark 16 days of activism, which runs from the 25th of November to the 10th of December 2023, the UNFPA held a day-long training session for media practitioners, on Monday to strengthen their capacity on sexual and gender-based violence and FGM-related matters. World Television Day is observed today, the 21st of November, and provides an opportunity to reflect on the importance and significance of television in our lives. In international news, Senegal's dissolved opposition party PASTEF says it is now backing its Secretary General as a candidate for next year's presidential election. In sports news, Gambia's national football team lost their second consecutive 2026 World Cup qualifier as their campaign fails to spark into life. But that's it for QTV News tonight. Thank you very much for watching, but join us again at 10 for another bulletin.